I got it.
Okay. If this thing will wake up, I'll be good to go. So I think everybody knows me, but I'm Carl Baker, president of the group. I guess I see a couple new faces, so not everybody knows me. I just have a few announcements I want to go through really quickly. The first one is actually a bit of a downer in that we've seen in recent news that American Atheists have fired David Silverman, who was the president of American Atheists, and who has been here as a guest speaker. He was accused of financial and sexual improprieties, which, you know, I guess we've seen that before, and I'm sure we'll see it again. You know, clearly we're not immune to those kind of problems. You know, I sort of think they did what they needed to do to ensure that everybody feels safe and is safe. You know, I guess we support them in that and would try, you know, hold to the same high standards here that they have there. So that's what I have to say about that, I think, unless anybody has any questions or discussion. I wanted to hit really quickly our upcoming events. 20th of May, member Rick Smith is going to talk about climate science. That'll probably be here at the same sort of time, 3 p.m., I'm thinking. June 7th, we have the Roy Zimmerman Resist Tour, also here at 7:30 p.m. That's a Thursday night, so bear that in mind if you're planning, and it's up there on Facebook. And then June 9th, so just a couple days later, we have the Alpacalypse planned for at Jeff and Brenda's place out in Bend City. So that's what's coming up that we know about. We're still thinking about what to do in July. We do have an idea to do kind of an open mic thing where we give everybody who wants to can have, we'll make up an amount of time, maybe 3 minutes at the microphone. Come, I don't know, we're still trying to scratch our heads about what it might make sense to do. But you know, you could talk about your own story about atheism or just a point that's of interest to you or something like that. A little bit of, I don't know, maybe a get to know each other better type of thing or something. Like I said, we're still scratching at that. And maybe we'll think of something else to do in July. Who knows? But that's a little ways off, so we have time. Funding for the group. We mostly work off of donations and memberships. If your membership has lapsed, boy, it'd be great if you went renewed. We do have the owl jar with us today here in the back of the room, so if you got $1 or $2 to put in there, that'd be great. And we're also selling these fetching atheist Tri-City Freethinkers buttons. So if you donate $5 and want a button, come see me and I'll give you a button. And I see a hand over here.
Can you tell us how to renew? Because I don't think I've done that for a couple of years.
Okay, well Rick is here, so you can pay him.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't had a chance to confirm with Rick. We do have a website, tricityfreethinkers.org, and at one time there was a donate button on the webpage that worked, and then we broke it by building a new account with the Square company, and then we tried to fix it, and I don't know if we've tested it completely to confirm whether it's fixed or not, and I don't know if Rick has anything to say about that or not.
In the last month and a half, we've gotten 3 donations accounted through Square.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's coming from, all I know is Square is the...
Yeah.
Do you have amounts?
It accepted mine that way.
How much was yours?
It was for both of us, I think, what's that?
$50.
So we had 3, one for $33.38, one for $10.38, and one for $96.80.
Okay, that sounds like it's working.
Now, those could also be, each of those could be multiple payments that they just sent on, on the day.
Well,
Lump payment from that day. So.
I did make, for test purposes, an $11 donation, and I'm sure that they took their little skim off of that, and that's the $10 and 30-something cents one. So the good news then is we're pretty sure that that's working, and so if you go to the freethinkers.org website, you can renew there. And I also have my tablet here, and I can pull out the little Square reader and attempt to take your money that way. So, but thank you for asking that. And those donations and memberships, that's pretty much how we pay for stuff. You know, and we do keep our expenses low, but we also provide cookies and stuff like that. So anything we can provide would be awesomely appreciated. I put a number of different things on the back table back there, including petitions for the I-1600 initiative here in Washington. It's whole Washington, universal health care for residents of Washington. And basically, the idea is, at the federal level, when they talk about universal health care, a lot of people talk about Medicare for all, so basically just take the Medicare coverage and push the age limit down to 0. This would be Medicaid for all. Medicaid is the state-run healthcare system, and basically you just put everybody on Medicaid. And then there'd be some various taxes to help pay for that. The amount of those taxes would roughly be equal to what you're paying now in terms of healthcare premiums, at least kind of what I'm paying now. And so it looks like a good idea to me. This isn't really the venue to push that, but if you're interested in that, the things there, I think I have some flyers if you're interested too. So that's available if you're interested in signing it. I also have the sign-up sheet for the Pro-Truth Pledge, which is a thing that we put up actually on our website, sort of an homage to our Enlightenment era roots, the idea that we ought to be telling the truth to one another and changing our views when the evidence kind of drives us to do that. So if you're interested in that, we think that if we get a lot of people to sign up for that, and agree to it, and then we can push that into our political arena, that then maybe our entire society will be the better off for it. So that's a thing that you can do. There's also some info sheets on Initiative 1631, which is a carbon tax here in Washington. So if that's a thing you're interested in, I don't have initiative petitions for that, but I do have the information sheets. And at least then when somebody does approach you with an initiative sheet, you'll have a little bit of background information. And the last thing I wanted to hit on is this Gallup poll that came out recently that finds that Washingtonians are less religious than ever. 47% of adults in the state say they're not religious. Yeah, which I think we're all fans of. Never or seldom attend services. That was out in the newspaper, so everybody else probably saw it. And, you know, some of that's due maybe to our efforts, and some of it's maybe due to our speaker, Damien and AtHope, who I'll let come up and take over the microphone and maybe talk a little bit about that.
Hi, I'm Damien AtHope, and I'm an axiological atheist, which can be simply understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. I would be a value science atheist, but the fact that I don't know calculus. That's a requirement to understand how to do the mathematical equations for axiology. So that's why I'm a value theorist who's also an atheist. Being an axiologist and an atheist is a little bit different in the fact that it doesn't start with atheism. It starts with apatheism. I see nothing to convince me to believe. Then if someone were to challenge an axiologist, it's all about value. So it's all about where we see value. So it just, every time you ask me a question, I've never changed. It's just value. It's just how value is related. So the next thing that happens is I would be an agnostic with an I, meaning that I challenge the concept of the term God having a cognitive or real-world meaning. Then, after that, then I will work on being an atheist, because now you're pushing me to, if you push it past, you say that I have to accept and address the term God, well then I'm an atheist. But an axiological atheist is also always an anti-theist. Always. There's no such thing as an axiologist because it's a value judgment. A God to an axiologist would be a being that has the right to subvert human equality, human agency. The fact that a supposed God can tell me how to live my life and then punish me if I don't live a life the way that God wants is a violation of the human rights. as an axiologist, it makes me immediately against the concept of God. Anything that can take away the rights of humanity is not a humane thing. So, but to go on to what I really want to talk about today is understanding the evolution of religion. I was a Christian who never doubted God, never read anything atheist, never had that I knew of an atheist friend, and one said he was a Satanist, but he ended up turning back to Christianity. And anyway, Satanism, how he saw it, still had the belief in the God. So it wasn't the Satanism I hear some people talk about that's atheistic. That's not what he had. So to me, I never even concept of challenging God, never even entered my mind. I thought maybe my parents' version of Christianity was a little on the wacky side, but certainly not God. So once I became an atheist in college, after being presented basically archaeological facts and then showing the contradictions in the Bible and in religion, because I had to take a course in my schooling for psychology, because I was going to deal with drug addicts and alcoholics, and they had a thing called a higher power. And so I had to, the school told me that I had to learn world religions and the Bible. I thought, the Bible is a class I'm going to finally ace. Fortunately, it was one of the hardest classes I ever had because I knew nothing. I thought I knew everything. At least I started opening that book and I'm like, whoa! I feel like I don't even know what the Bible is. And they kept showing me over and over again, like I said. So it made me really have a desire to know. And then I didn't even know when I realized the conclusion of that I was an atheist. I didn't even know there was an atheist community. And then when I did find the atheist community, they're like, oh, well, this and that and this. I didn't know if atheists were right. Why would I believe atheists? I just been lied to by, it feels like everybody close in my entire life. Why would I believe strangers? I didn't. And so this was also, in the sense that I'm going to present to you, was my desire to actually look. I wanted to know. They're like, oh, well, religion's false. Well, how do we know that? Well, religion started out of fear. How do we know that? I wanted to know, not guess. So let's start the thing. So as you see here, I have animism, totemism, shamanism, paganism, and progressed organized religions. And as I see it, that's the sequence. So animism to me, I'll just give it real quick. Animism to me is about 100,000 years old, at least. Totemism, at least 50,000. Shamanism, at least 30,000. Paganism is at least 12 to 13,000. And then progressed organized religion to me is 5,000 and down. So let's start the beginning of how that happened. So here's evidence of almost 3.5 million year old, bones with evidence of tool marks. So they weren't just making stone tools, they were using them in an effective way for food. Then about 1.5 million years ago, we started having an advance in the brain capacity as we evolved. And there's evidence of controlled use of fire, but not cooking. Then I consider this primal superstition. Superstition to me is a state that happened, in a sense, the religious ideas before anything close to religion. Just like the touchy-feely, I'm feeling things. I think that people started, because in a million years, it started to get the brain capacities for some abstract thought. Not full, just starting. So we can see that, to me, you look at the stuff, the primal superstition, there's a distribution of this kind of thinking. Then at 400,000 to 350 years ago in Germany, this is an elephant bone fragment that has cut marks on it. To me, it almost looks like a modern-day knife blade or something that's missing its handle. But to me, it also, you start having the structure of the face and to be a little more human-like. And you start to have some possible, representation of burial. So to me, I think of pre-animism as being the state of pre-religion in a sense. It's all the beginning elements starting to come into play. And so to me, if you see these stones that I have here, I'll go ahead and put the laser pointer. So this stone right here, this stone, this figure, this stone, all these stones are actual stones. They were made by Homo erectus, probably. And anyways, the stones, now they're not the right size though. This one this guy's sitting on actually is about this big, about the size like something you hold in your hand. So the point is, I'm trying to show you that they're thinking and using these things, though, not just in an artistic way. They seem to be also have a theme. A certain portion of these, it seems like about 60%, I think. So it's not 100%, but have one eye, you see here, one eye closed, one eye open. And see down here is an eye open and an eye closed. Some don't have any eyes. There's another one, eye open, eye closed. This one has kind of both, sort of. This is eye open, eye closed. This is two eyes open. But so a certain majority of them stones seem to be representing an idea. Not just anthropomorphic face, but some more deeper meaning to what they're trying to transmute in that face. To me, I think, and it's not like I'm the only one that thinks this, but that there's like I would say, the pre-anism, as far as anthropology, is considered to be a stage of religious development that is supposed to have preceded anism, where objects are believed to contain some spiritual energy or something. So, and I agree, I don't think this is religion. I put this thing in the sky. To me, what I'm trying to say is that I think these people might have held these stones as life and death. And like a loved one dies, and you see a stone, one eye open, one of them. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, I don't know. But I'm just saying, there's some meaning going on. This right here, there also is the goddess of Tantan, which I don't consider a goddess, or it's called the Venus of Tantan. I don't think it's a Venus either. So I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the actual ox, so you can see that what I'm talking about the faces and stuff. So this is the Tantan figure that they call a goddess. First off, how do you know it's a female? Because that thing has no form at all. Now this one is also considered a Venus or a goddess, and this one is also about anywhere from 250 to, could be 500,000 or 800,000. It's not exactly sure because I always found a sedimentary layer. But anyways, it was covered in red ochre and has a little tiny hole right in the center of its, looking like breasts, made of onyx. So it was either nature accidentally pushed one little onyx piece inside this tufa stone or whatever it is, and then covered it in red ochre, or humans did it. But there's also, humans, because at least some of the marks on them, they did it in deeper analysis, and some of these have been worked. This one is more questionable if it's actually just a regular stone that someone thinks it looks like a person. But they did carry, pick up and carry stones that had anthropomorphic features to them. So to me, then you get to progressed superstition. And this is, like I said, the 300,000 we already talked. But this right here is in Spain. There's it seems like an intentional storage of bones or burial of at least 32 people in a cave chamber pit. And it may, to me, be symbolism of a possible pseudo-womb or idea, because they're also earlier burials, they didn't lay people flat. They put them in round things with fetal position. So it would seem to reference more like that type of an idea, egg or something, if it wasn't a womb. So, but the behavior, though, is a belief that if humans die, they have some kind of special thing, or animals. And that interesting thing to be more of a burial, possibly, is that red stone was placed or thrown on top of the bodies. Did someone fall in and drop the stone? It hasn't been used, but it could have been a burial. And the earliest possible use of red ochre is about 300,000 years old. It's one of the oldest minerals ever mined by humans, hand-free humans. So then, if you see here too, people don't realize that there's a lot of abstract thinking. This right here is a wolf tooth pendant. So someone was wearing this around something. It could have been not just on a human body, it could have been on a lance or a spear or that. So I'm not saying that this actually means a necklace or a bracelet, or an anklet, or it could have been not on a human body or a body at all. It could have been on an idol. But still, it would have a significance, religious or cultural something. And then we're talking culture, if that's culture, at 300,000 or religion. Either one of those is amazing to me. And then also, at the same time, we have, again, more modern faces of early humans. Another interesting thing, too, is we all think of, or not all, but I don't think that way, but a lot of people still think that Neanderthals were stupid. Yeah, they buried people before we did. They used red ochre before we did. And they built some kind of a, I don't know, religious circle or something before we did. So Neanderthals, to me, I feel possibly even transferred some of their religious ideas to humans when they made it interactive. It's very interesting that 1,043, and 20,000 years ago, a grave in Israel found evidence of Neanderthal-type burials of arcane type of human female. There are also some evidence of burials at 130 to 100,000. And 100,000 years ago to 120, there's another burial of a Neanderthal seeming to maybe teach, us stuff, because Neanderthals have been burying humans in some kind of a way for 250,000 years. So they've, in a sense, done it for longer than we could have possibly done it. And to me, I'm not saying that Neanderthals had full religion. I think they had these ideas of afterlife. They were doing burials. They were putting red ochre and sacred items with the burials. It's evident that they were doing something like that. That's why I consider that part of pre-anism. Anism, yay! Humans finally make a showing. Or boo, humans finally are stupid enough to believe religion. But I think that we need to understand, though, that arcane humans, you didn't know anything. This may have been true. I wouldn't have held it against these people from thinking that there's spirits in the world. These people didn't know anything. They had no science. But what's interesting to me is that they really didn't, animism doesn't really have a really fixed religiousness to it. It's more like what we think of as people say, I'm spiritual, not religious. That would be probably closer to what I would think of animism started in. That doesn't mean it stayed that way. We humans love nothing more than to explain everything and call it ours. So, to me, when I say animist, let me explain. I mean a spirit-filled life, like in other words, that there's spirits in this life right now. There's demons and angels, like religious people believe. But also, they also believed in the afterlife. So there's a spirit life and there's a spirit afterlife. There's two things. And it's a lot more complicated in some areas than that, but just as a basic thing. So, to me, it's this 100,000, this primal religion that starts with animism. And the evidence of human burial we have in Israel of modern human remains, stained with red ochre. And a variety of grave goods are also offered and found, including there's 71 pieces of red ochre, and then there's also red ochre stained tools. Now, red ochre was also made into crayons-like type of thing, and they would draw with them. So they had a function other than just sacred, but they were putting red ochre on them, like dusting them, and things. So that seems great, Israel. But those people weren't from Israel. Those were Africans that went to Israel, and then after that, disappeared. Did they go back to Africa? Did they get killed off? Who knows? So their genetics did not finish living there. So interesting though, did they go to South Africa? Well, I don't know, but South Africa, 100,000 to 74,000 border cave, has evidence of a child burial. It's an infant, and it's coated in red ochre, and has a shell bead necklace, and is buried with a grave good. So, to me, it's very interesting, because also at 75,000 is the time that Neanderthals were making crystal stone tools. They'd done this before also, but these are just some specific ones at that time. To me, it's really interesting about these stones is just imagine you don't know science. Here you find a stone that you can see through. What an amazing stone that would be, because every other stone is not see-through. So to me, I can see where you would think this is a magical, special thing or something. But to me, it's interesting too because they don't use these. There's no evidence of them being used. They made them, didn't use them. And it takes a lot of work to make these. And then also this type of crystal is actually less effective than the other stone tools for use. So it wasn't made because it was the best. It's just made because it was beautiful or because it was sacred of some kind. So 75 to 70,000 in South Africa is the first evidence of human worship. It's a stone snake, and it has been modified. There's already a shape. It's inside of a cave also. So it's this thing that's like in a cave, and then it's like jutting out into the cave itself. And it was modified to look more like a snake. And then they burned stone tools and stuff under it to destroy them for the snake stone. For a couple hundred years, and then they stopped. Why? Who knows? But they did do it. So it's interesting to me that these sacralized kind of rock is a movement to me from sacred is here to sacred is a thing. So to me, that's when you start to get into, at 50,000 years ago, totemism. So I think that totemism could have, the idea, or like the stone snake, the ideas like that could have started in Africa, because at 60,000 years, humans went from Africa and were in China. And at 56,000 years, we were almost in the Arctic Circle up there in Siberia, Russia. So the fact that humans are already spread out a long time ago, and by this time, especially in Europe, I feel like totemism is a European thing. Animism is an African thing for sure, and totemism is more of a European thing. And some of the Polynesian islands got it, but I think they got it the same way the Americas got it, from Siberia. So you have to understand, these people, just like Siberia, the people were not the way they are now. There was a lot of people that looked like Native Americans. They lived in Siberia, and especially at that time. And from 28, I think it is, until 10,000 before the land bridge cut off, people were going to peopling the Americas. In fact, 22,000, I think it's, 24, I think 22, all the way down to Chile. That is way down there. So it shows there already people were moving around. So these ideas, a lot of people think like it's weird at first, oh, how could religion be connected? People live, yeah, people traveled, they didn't have TV, they had nothing better to do than to go do stuff. So, I mean, I know it's hard when you're standing with our mindset and we look backwards than it is to be there and look at our way. So we have to do that, but we have to try to remove ourselves from now and look back. What was it like then? First off, it's like, people understand, like, it's like, when did green eyes happen? When did blue eyes happen? When did white skin happen? A lot of this stuff is not as old as you think. It's like under 10,000 or 15 to 10,000. I mean, it's most of human history. Yeah, we were basically still close to Africans. There was some changing, especially in Europe and in China. You have the Desovians. But so the totemist, to me, the difference in the animist, it's just like an animist, but extra. To me, most of religion is like a bunch of Legos. Keep putting all these parts, and then we just call all that religion, when you add all these parts. So totemist, the difference I see is animist is almost like I said, kind of hippie, kind of feminine in its persuasion. Totemist is the male. I'm going to tell everything what it is. I'm going to tell you who you can have your relations with. I'm going to tell you, because it's all about the sacred and profane. It's not just, totemism is not just about making artifacts. It's also about how a clan runs itself. So you have a real segmenting and a controlling of people and of things. This animal is okay, that animal is not. Immediately we make sacred or profane, you gotta have punishments. What good is life without punishments? Yeah. Because the religious belief is without punishment, there won't be a following of the rules. So it already, at totemism, to me, is condemning humanity. To me, because it's already saying that there is a way that we cannot live. There's a way, and it's not like it's a real ethical thing. It's just some abstract. Like that bird, you can eat, but that bird not. I mean, only that type of clan is okay. If they're a lower animal clan, I see birds like up in the highest, and there's animals in the ground, there's animals below the water. In all levels in the sense, and totemistic, like, not everybody, because all the older religions, like shamanism, totemism, and animism, there's no uniform structure, because they started very ununiform, and they went out and they just did whatever they want because they didn't have any uniform rules. Totemism knows a little more, but see, shamanism came along next, and shamanism, whoops, part of shamanism. So this right here, 50,000 years ago is when scientists, archaeologists and stuff, consider that we became, in a sense, modern humans. 200,000 years ago, like archaic humans, and then modern humans, anything 50,000 and under. Of course, we were different again at 10,000, but just as a reference. So these people were very, very similar to us. So, some evidence first, go back to totemism. I forgot I had a couple more slides. So, this right here is considered to be the oldest Venus goddess that they're sure is a human created thing for some sort of a sacred or something purpose. I consider it looks like a rotisserie chicken. I first looked down like, damn, that's like a rotisserie chicken. I'm getting hungry. No, but this thing is about this big. It's like really small, about the size of like a large, silver dollar or something. It's very small. It's actually a pendant made to wear or put on something. Obviously, I can't always say that a pendant was put around someone's neck, but it was put somewhere. And it also was found in the same area with flutes. So I think it's pretty interesting that you have these two together. I think, once again, I think that even like shamanism, there's a figure where it shows dancing. And I think that it was way before that, when they started doing music. And 50,000 years ago, like I said, we're modern humans. So if we like music now, 50,000 years ago, we're sure they liked it then. So that's supposed to be a female figure. This right here is considered like a lion-headed man or whatever. To me, it also could be a bear. Both of those would be appropriate. There was bear religions and worshipping of the cat. So either one is possible. I don't think it was a god. These are just anthropomorphic figures. This right here is interesting in Charlie McCabe. This right here is like a stalactite, and it's considered the Venus and the sorcerer, it's called. I don't think it's either of those things. But it's interesting, this female pubic triangle was actually created first and a lot later than this one and this one were created. So, but to me, I don't understand why they call it a sorcerer, because it looks like the female, her leg is the animal's leg. So I don't see where man comes into that, other than maybe the bull. But anyways, I said, so to me, there's people like in about 9,000, there's in Cattle Hawk, there's believe a worship of the goddess and the bull. And who knows, maybe it came from this already preconceived ideas. In fact, they have goddesses also that have lions on, or leopards or something on, some kind of cat on each side. So this cave is very far into the ground. It was not like the place where they were living. This was intentionally gone after for an intentional purpose. Shamanism. To me, this is where you start to see like the anthropomorphic type of thing. This right here is what I think eventually it kind of becomes gods. This is kind of like the priest king or spirit leader, or it could be that this person thinks they have like a spiritual guide or something. It's helping them in the afterlife or whatever. It could be different things. Some people could be a demon. That likes them or whatever. And the demons to them, or it would be more like a trickster actually, not a demon, but it could be that. It could be a person. Good.
An ancestor?
Yes, I was just going to say it could be an ancestor. I'm trying. That's why I made it kind of like anthropomorphic looking, not specifically, because to me it wasn't specific. And certainly it could be a crow, and one thing is a crow is also an ancestor and also a deity or not. I mean, it's not that fixed, but it's a little more feminine. I think it like animism was all feminine. Then totemism is not totally male, but it's more male. And then shamanism, to me, would be looking at both those and going, yeah, that's too male. We're going to be a little more back to being more female. In fact, most of the shamans, the oldest shamans found, are female. So, to me, the difference is, so they believe in a spirit-filled life and afterlife, like animism, because they still are part of that, and closer to that, actually, than totemism. But they also have a belief in express things, like their drum and their thing to rattle to make the afterlife, appear or whatever. So that's kind of like totemism in fact. In fact, you can see that he's drawn like this is actually a copy of an actual shaman drum. They put a spirit figure. It's probably this figure. Not like the person said, it's probably an ancestor. But it could be something else. So, to me, shamanism is about that spirit-filled life and afterlife. The difference to me is that you now have a person, almost like a priest. It's an actual person that does this for you. Where an animist, in a sense, you could do it for yourself. It's not as much totemism. The clan might do it, but it's not as much a specific person. Although some now totemists will have a shaman. Sometimes even animists will have something close to a shaman or something. But remember, to me, that's way after. The beginning was not like that. The beginning started in Siberia, and it's about 30,000. So there's evidence of, like here, see, so this stone person, caveman or whatever, you see that they're using red ochre is what that coloring is. And then also they have this shell bead cap. The beads would have gone all the way over. It's a total like a hat made out of, bone sinew probably, and, putting all these little shells. So they're already decorating the dead at 35 to 30,000. And this right here is a little dancing figure of shamanism that I talked about. And it's about 32,000 years old. It's about 3 inches high. And it was carved, it looks like to hold in a hand. And maybe it was used almost like a beginning of a wand or something. Because to me, what goes back to the shamanism having parts of totemism. Here they're using, in a sense, a kind of a totem. And I think it could relate to a life and afterlife. This is also early shamanism. This is 32,000 to 19,000 years ago in Sinclair, Russia. And Sungler, whatever. I'm not good at pronouncing it. Anyways, they found this was the gravating culture burials, and it seemed to match later indigenous American, some of them, shamanistic burials, especially even one as old as 11,500 years ago, a dual burial like these two children, and they found that in Alaska at the Tanan River site. And also found decorated stone weapons. So to me, even though there's not a direct connection in just religion, they have also a connection in genetics and also a connection in other areas of culture besides religion.
Did shamanism involve a human or a person to promote it?
Yes.
And totemism is the icon?
Clan promotes it. Totemism, you're part of a clan. You're born into it. Shamanism, I guess you could be born into a clan that believes in shamanism, but shamanism is way more, I guess, generally forgiving in the fact of other ideas. Like totemism will be a lot less forgiving. You will follow rules. And that's the whole thing. It's all very structured. Compared to shamanism, is like, it's a lot more open. So is that what you're asking?
Kind of, yeah, I guess.
Well, you can ask another question if you...
Totem would be like an icon, an item.
Well, yeah, a totem is a representation that a human made, that they've given some sort of a religious or cultural experience.
And you're saying it's also part of a clan?
Yeah, the idea of clan is very anti-totemistic. And so the same way with the sacred and profane is very totemistic. And when you say that something is sacred or profane even today in religion, it's really a totemistic idea that they've adapted into their religion. But it's still just their Lego piece that already was there. Well, I mean, I'm trying to say, I don't know, it's a religious idea that kept building on it, and then people just take a few pieces they like, and take a few pieces out, and put more, build a little different thing with the same Legos, and they arrange the Legos in different, oh, look, it's different. Like, same pieces, you just made a different thing out of the same Legos. Don't you see that? And I didn't know this, just so you know, it's not like I went into this investigation and knew all this stuff. No, this is 10 years of me learning and then having to change, learning, change. Because you don't know. Society doesn't tell you a lot of the stuff about religion. And archaeologists generally only focus a lot of times on one specific thing or one site or one type. Like say if they did shamanism, they would just generally do shamanism. They wouldn't do shamanism, totemism. They wouldn't do that. I mean, it's not saying that none do, but everybody's highly stylized, especially because everything's about money. It's what you sell, what their grant they can get. So I mean, it focuses. Well, I don't have that. I don't have no grant. All I had was wanting the truth. I mean, I had to go read college books for archaeology because they don't talk in language for regular people. So when I bought their $100 and something books, they're like ridiculous, like 1,500 pages. I can't even hold that book comfortably. But it's that desire for truth. And the really interesting thing that I'll show you in this next one, this right here is a offshoot of the gravity culture. Okay? So this is in Czech Republic. And this was found, this is only just this, by the way. This is just like drawings of it from different views. But this right here, this is an actual piece. This is the oldest, representation of a human face, like an actual portrait face, because they believe it's the actual portrait of the female shaman that they buried it with. I think it's interesting that she has one eye open, one eye closed. I wonder if that has anything to do with that pre-anism stuff. Maybe, maybe not. But anyways, it's interesting. And shamans have this belief too, different than a lot of other. Weakness is sometimes seen as strength, especially if you can, in a sense, overcome weakness. In other words, if you were disabled but you're still a dynamic person, they would see you as special. So having a defect, especially the eyes, because they believe that when the eyes are damaged, you can see the outer world. You can see everywhere else. You couldn't see here, but you can see outer worlds, other space, something different than, or something special. And some even shamans today have to go through like a shaman quest where they have some strife or struggle they overcome or near death. It's all similar to the same ideas. It's just ritualistic cultic behavior, just like you see here. And you see that they've arranged one person laying down, another person with the person's hand in their crotch and has red ochre in the hand, like powder he's holding. Why? I don't know. But it's just interesting that when you see that the type of rituals and look at the kind of clothes that they wore. I mean, these people, we always think of, like I said, that ancient people, 20,000, 30,000 years, were just living in caves and were totally, no, these people had teepees, and they lived like a lot like Native American or Eskimos today. So to me, it's very interesting that this one in the middle is a female and then it's two males. Interesting. So I think that it depicts the woman in a unique thing because nowadays you don't have a burial like this. But I was thinking of this burial. Why was it done? Why was a person put face down? First thing I think is this. Why are all these people dead at the same time? That's the first thing I thought. How did that happen? Then if they were done something wrong, they're bad people, why would they honor them by doing something sacred? Now, the one person is face down, Don't know, but best question.
Are you sure they all died at the same time? Couldn't they just all have been successively buried in the same?
Well, just think, unless they put them in somehow permafrost, there's going to be bones. In other words, like, let's say, because they feel in that freezers, unless you're going to bless them out in the tundra and it was cold. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's a real shallow burial. That already tells me it probably was cold, but if they could do that, then it would seem odd if they interned them and then put them together later. Even if that could happen, I'm saying it didn't. When it comes to archaeology, we can look at the actual evidence and then we can try to surmise what's the most logical thing to me to understand, especially when you understand all the different facts available. But to me, it is important. Not to, for me personally, especially in this thing, is not to get so much into the details of what, why, on every single thing, because I have a lot more stuff to show you. But to show you, though, that this thinking that religion invented 5,000 years ago is completely ridiculous. So let's get to paganism. And again, we have the sky getting to be a lot different. And the fact that we're starting to meet, you have the, I have a representation of an animal and a human. I think that this is about the time when we really started animal husbandry. And when we did that, animal husbandry, like you know, we were producing animals ourselves, not just catching them in the wild. We started actually cornering them and somehow taming them, domesticating them. I think that the interesting thing to me is, though, we domesticated humans too. Humans were not domesticated to me until this point. In other words, we were nomads. We traveled around. We didn't have, until about 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, maybe even 14, the most, we started to have real sedentary behaviors on a very large scale. And once you have that, you have, to me, the invention of gods, because once we stopped moving around, we had to depend on the area we're in. Well, the area we're in could lose its resources, could have them taken. Fire, avalanche, floods, I mean, too much rain, not enough rain, I mean, you can just, animals, I mean, you don't even need people to be involved to have all kinds of catastrophes. Especially as early people that tries to stay in one area, because it's not like they knew the areas that were good. They just stayed where it was good at that moment. Well, it may not be good in 6 months. You know, North Dakota looks real good in the summer. You do not want to be in northern North Dakota in the winter. Well, I guess it's like to be very, very cold. But so it really mattered about, I think, about that, and also the fact that paganism happens to me because of agriculture, not just sedentary behavior. Agriculture was the thing of that we were sedentary, and then we planted stuff, and then it would grow or not grow. And to me, we started to rely on thunderstorms and all kinds of stuff to. But it's interesting to know all the grains originally had goddess names, showing that at the beginning of agriculture, this spread of the connection of gods and goddesses and religion was hooked in at this time. And we already see stuff of a change too, because I think that also, like I said before to someone, that about 13,000, 12,000 years ago, I see as the beginning of patriarchy, the beginning of the segmenting of female and woman, you know, into two, good girl, bad girl. And it's the thing to me when men started to, you know, act different. This right here to me is more like a totem. It's 6 foot and half inch, and if you notice, it doesn't have a mouth. And it's holding its genitals, but it's not seeming to be real forceful even at that. But to me, it's still interesting. This is found in Turkey. It's called the Euphoman statue, and it's expressionless, not a mouth. And it's interesting to me, though, is it's definitely still ritualistic. And very funny that these kind of faces were this kind of expressionless. These were masks that you're found even in Israel and other areas. And I think that they look, and there's actually even a think it's 11,000 years old in Russia, Siberia, where there's an actual, I think it's 14 feet tall, like a wood totem pole thing, with a round face, but the same exact eyes and no expression in the nose. So these ideas are shared. So Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, I consider Turkey to be the birthplace of what all the world's religions today. All of them have a tie to Turkey. And, well, all the major ones, I should say. Major worlds, almost all of the major worlds today. Because there's some that maybe don't have a direct connection, but very close to all. Anyway, so it's really about primal organized religion in general. And this is about 13,000 to 9,370. And this was the first human-made temple. And this structure probably had some astronomical, but if you notice these two standing pillars, I believe this is still the beginning of the end, or the end of shamanism, but this is a sky burial. You know those things that Native Americans make? Really put stuff, but also up in Tibet, they do that too, because of the shamanistic influence of Bon in their Bu religion that's in the shaman, the Buddhism of Tibet actually has shamanistic religion that was already there before Buddhism entered. So, anyways, this first human-made temple in southeast Turkey, and it's interesting too, like I said, not just because of the pillars, but also they found some worship probably of human skulls. And I think that's a really interesting thing too about the skulls, because there's a thing called the skull cult later at, I think it's 7,000 to 5,000. But they've found stuff for skull cult worship in a sense already at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. So I think that there's columns with have all kinds of like animals and stuff on them. There's also a couple of columns that have a woman giving birth. And so I think that all this has related stuff. There's also a drawing on the ground at Göbekli Tepe, or actually a drawing, a carving in the stone, of a nude woman with her legs spread. So this is Catalhawk. This is, to me, the first religious city where actually the houses themselves were religious. They were built with like a temple in every house practically.
So why did they bury Göbekli Tepe?
Why did they bury it? I would say probably because they were doing things a little different. The fact that they were moving, well, because 14,000 till 7,000, there was obsidian being taken out of Turkey at two places. One near Catalhawk, which this is at, and then one at Göbekli Tepe. Catalhawk is about in central, near the Cappadocia region, and then you have southeastern Turkey where Göbekli Tepe is. Both of them are very close to obsidian mines. Also, I think Catalhawk is near a salt mine, I think, too. But so there's the reason people were coming there. So they were actually coming from Israel and Egypt and South Mesopotamia and northern Mesopotamia. They were coming up into Turkey, grabbing obsidian and taking it back down. So there's a lot of this influx of ideas from both sides. And I think that also was the opposite way. They set ideas down. So they made culture, in a sense, our culture happens in Turkey, and then in a sense spreads out from there. Very quickly in the Middle East, because they were already, in a sense, connected to those people. They're already trading obsidian, and then later they trade copper, we're in the Copper Age. So they were constantly going up there. In fact, the Sumerian language has loanwords that were from Turkey, pre-Sumerian. I think that either the Sumerians were from Turkey, or that some of their language was adapted or borrowed from Turkey because they traveled there. So, 10,000 years ago, to me, is the first goddess. Those other things, the figures, I consider more like hunting magic, other type of things. This is the first goddess. As you see, it has a cat on each side, that then is later copied again by Greek, Romans. This actually, I think, is in Spain. It still relates to the same thing. Woman on a chair, throne, and then two cats.
How old is that?
Which one? This one?
The one on the left.
This one.
Left.
From Greece? Left. Tell me about this one? 10,000.
10,000?
This is 10,000 years old. And there's more than one found too. And also, I'm not sure of all of them, but I know at least some of them, or one of them, was found in a grain bin. And I read the thing, and the person goes, well, it must not have been that important, so it couldn't have been a goddess. And I'm like, so the fertility thing is in the grain bin, and you don't think that's a religious idea? You need to learn religion, dude. But I think sometimes that's the problem, is some of these other people are not skilled enough in religion because they're focusing on facts. They don't care about religion. I mean, they know about it as maybe an abstract thing, but that's saying all people like that, but certainly it's not given the kind of focus that the general public likes to give it. I doubt you're going to find the same population of archaeologists that will go, yeah, the Bible is true. Yeah, I don't think you can find lots of them. Just like you're not find lots of scientists that are generally. So to me, though, it's not to say that goddesses are somehow better than gods, because it's all the same deity idea. But it is a fact to me that there's no male figure gods until after 7,000. So, progressed, organized religion. To me, this it fully happens by 5,000, but I think it starts at 7,000. Certainly by 7,500, there's a real cultural evolution, even in Turkey. Turkey always stays more feminine, more goddess worshipping than the lower Mesopotamia or Egypt or Israel. But I think this is where the ideas started to come. And by this time, you get 7,500 in Turkey, they started to change. Of course, understand they've been invaded, and they're being invaded from the south, and they're being invaded from Georgia in the north. I think they're going to be invaded from the west. So they're getting a lot of invasion. But still, in fact, if you look at the walls of Jericho, Jericho's walls, I think, are 9,000 years old. So, I mean, but this is an important thing. Jericho, like in the Bible, it sounds like it must be the most impressive town there is. It must have just been, well, first off, to me, Jericho was a satellite for Turkey, because Jericho made tons of goods, didn't they, and more than they could use in where they were at, and then they stored tons of goods. Like workers in a storehouse. They didn't have ranch, mansions. They were the working class in a working class town with a gate built by the higher corporations. People that did have the power, did have the money, that wanted those items. So let's think of it, because you have up here all these obsidian, all this, copper, all these minerals that are being brought down. And you have this nice way of bringing it down real easy called the rivers. They have the Tigris and Euphrates. So you have two of them to choose from. And to me, there's a lot of distribution because of those rivers. And to me, that's why there's also a large connection with the Turkey and the Middle East. So it's really interesting, speaking of the southern Mesopotamia and Turkey. So this figure is from Turkey, this is from southern Mesopotamia, but in a sense they're both almost from the same culture, because cultures didn't care about our borders. They basically just wherever they want to spread. But to me it's interesting though, that this is like the first swastika kind of like, and you notice it's religious, it's goddesses, or some sort of figure with long hair. And to me it's also already showing that their use. They're using them, I don't think, as a swastika. They're using it in a sense as probably the four corners of the four things. Just like you have the medicine wheel with the four things sedimented. Here's the medicine wheel with the four things sedimented. These ideas, well, to me, like I said, shamanism became paganism. In other words, pagans are shamans that stopped being shamans and started getting more deities. In fact, even in Nordic, Odin was a shaman. believed to be a shaman, not actually a god, but a person who was a shaman that became deified. Like, happens in some of the other cultures too, in Mesopotamia and Egypt. They become god kings or whatever. They become, after death, they become a god, or they already were, or whatever. But it's interesting because it's all females. See, this is female, female, and then this is all the graves or majority, I'd say, almost all. The graves in Egypt were being buried with a female figure. And in Africa, they were doing figures that they were female, mainly. But by 5,000, there's a big difference. So to me, what the real difference you can see is, like I said, before 5,000, certainly 7,000, it's all female. Then by here, 5,600, here's the first male figure found. It's not found with just some random person. No, it's found with the oldest mummy. And it relates to these artifacts. And it predates even the first pharaoh. Take this once again. Once you understand the archaeology of religion, you see evolution of religion everywhere. It evolved. It wasn't like we're just given this package. This God to do everything, gave us everything. No, we got a little piece, and then people evolved, and another little piece, and evolved, another little piece, and then we're like, oh no, I made all this. Yeah, right. And so, to me, what happened at 5,000 to make religion so much more strong, seemingly important, and so widespread, especially to a specific type of belief. Not just that you believed, but a specific belief really happens in Egypt and in Mesopotamia. So that because they make the king be the priest, a pharaoh, which is a king priest. So you have, in a sense, priesthood at the top. And then you have priests and nobles. So more priests, so religion and religion. So the two top spots are basically mainly religion. Then you have the soldiers to protect their religion. To me, this is the issue though. This is the first time that I feel like religion got a military. Go ahead, question?
That timing would tie it in also with metallurgy, because that's about the same time that we entered the Iron Age.
Right, but they already were doing metallurgy in the Copper Age. So there's warfare started about 10,000 years ago and hasn't really in the Middle East stopped. And actually, there's not been a place in this planet that hasn't had some place of war for the last 4,000, I think it's 995 years or that, give or take. But
So you don't think the Iron Age had any effect with it?
So, well, it made it worse. Because, say, Copper Age tools, you hit somebody, it bends or whatever. You stab a few times, it might break off or bend. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's not, iron is a hell of a lot stronger. And remember, bronze is before the Iron Age. So bronze is already, but before bronze, they were already killing each other with stone tools. So, I mean, but war, like I said, is about 10,000. And it happened in the Middle East. And pretty much that place hasn't changed yet. And so, and I think that it's this thing of religion and government that has been toxic from the beginning. I people go, oh, it'd be great if we could have, no religion and government. Yeah, that'd be nice to start something new. That would be nice. About time, but yeah. So to me, it's understanding it was always religion. There was no time that government existed that was not religion. And that doesn't happen. Religion was way first, and religion, to me, produced government to control the people so that they could have the religion. Religion is this thing that's been forced onto society, and we see it today. There's not too many people that believe that a person can't force their kids to be their religion. I do. I think it's actually an abuse of human rights. The child has a right to religious freedom as much as an adult. Imagine if we actually agreed that you have no religious life until you're 18. Would we really support that? Dude, is that really what religious people want to support? So I think that we can even get to them by reason and say, we shouldn't do that. But, just like in the Mesopotamian society, the king priest at top. And then we have the anti-priests and nobles, very similar to the Egyptian model. Because you know why? It works. They realize real quick, hey, you know what's better than having your little religion that matters? Your religion has a military that matters. And so to me, you'll notice at the bottom you have slaves. And to me, I think it's the really institutionalized of also women's downfall, because by 4000 is the oldest women's rights document in the world, found in southeast Turkey. And to me, it shows that Turkey was still trying to stay feminine positive to a little bit, while these other ones were actually in Egypt, and especially Mesopotamia, were going the other way. But to me, it really understand religion is to understand that it's not special. I don't see it as a meme, as some kind of thing we transfer. I simply see it as dogmatic propaganda. It's no different than any propaganda today. It's like saying that we're born for Hitlerism, we're born for, to be a communist. No, you're not born with that idea. That idea is simply an idea that humans promote. You believe it because it's given to you in a propaganda way. To me, it's given to you in a dogmatic way. Don't question, don't think, just believe. I did a lot of that most of my life, and I'm done with that, just believing stuff.
I don't see the word fraud in there anywhere.
Yeah. So I say forget religions, and their unfounded myths. I have substantiated archaeological facts. The earliest innings of symbolic superstition behaviors begin around 1 million years ago. Primal superstitions increase about 600,000 years ago, to a greater extent about 300,000 years ago. Earliest superstitionizing, sacralizing behaviors begin about, to me, with humans, 100,000 years ago. Clearer behaviors become more evident at 75 and then 50. Finally, culminating about 13,000 years ago, begins with the evolution of organized religion. Develops further about 10,000, and finally becoming even stronger from 7,500 to 5,000 years ago, with the beginning of the forming of mythology and its connected set of dogmatic propaganda. So let me make this as clear as I can. All religions and the theorized deities and supernatural elements they support or proclaim are but a spectrum of accepted, unfounded myths, lies, and institutionalized superstition, as well as some amount of bundling or grouping of pseudoscience, pseudo-history, and pseudo-morality. Therefore, there is no denying religion and its faithism, no matter how loved some of it may be, are profound untruths, or how I see them, just a connected set of dogmatic propaganda. And this brings me to the end for right now. And this has it all, as you've been looking at and I've been researching, is going in my book called The Tree of Lies and Its Hidden Roots, exposing the evolution of religion and removing the rationale of faith. And I say, come with me in a journey to free thought, where the war is against ignorance and the victor a rational mind. Religions continuing in our world of science, facts, should be seen as little more than irrational conspiracy theories of reality, and confused on scientific ethos from man's ancient past. Rational thinkers must ask, why continue to believe in religions now so obviously obsolete? Even childlike stories of how they wish the world works. These religious childlike stories should not even be taken seriously. But sadly, too often they are. Often without realizing it, we accumulate beliefs that we have allowed to negatively influence our lives. However, it is our willingness to alter these skewed beliefs or flawed assertions that are impede our balance, which can bring about a new beneficial awareness. This book, as is this presentation I tried to offer, was meant to show researched information such as archaeology, history, linguistics, genetics, art, science, sociology, geography, psychology, philosophy, theology, biology, zoology, etc. Along with, I try to offer challenges and critiques to ideas to ponder on. To me, that my book had, and this really has two main things, is expose the evolution of religion and to remove the rational faith. So I'm open to open it up for questions. Go ahead.
When the written word came along, that probably boosted this whole thing a whole bunch, didn't it?
I would say it was probably easier to transfer it to a lot of people, but just remember, just because you wrote a book doesn't mean people read. So literacy was probably more along people that were affluent and rich and probably had every reason to want to keep religion's military power and not, in a sense, give power to the people, I would say. I mean, that was true then, it's still true now. Most people in power don't desire to give any of the power, or very little of it, to anybody else. Any other questions?
Right over here.
Yeah, would you put your first slide up? Because I missed all of the... Yeah, the one where you had the
I know what you're talking about, the first one. Yep.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I'm going to sit down and see more questions. Any other questions?
When do you think you'll have your book out?
Could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, I'm not exactly sure. I had made it too complicated, actually.
The scope is wide, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gathering tons of information, because at first I didn't gather it in a sense as research for the book. You know, I didn't know what I thought until I researched it. I had a general idea of what I thought religion was. I thought I would just talk about like before and then now. And then I realized, oh, I can't do that. That would not help people enough to understand all the stuff I've learned. It just, yeah, I got it. And I started realizing, you know what? I don't even care about after 5,000. I think my thing I can help everyone understand is what happened before that. So that's why I just changed focus. And so the problem is I changed focus in the book several times. First time I wrote it was 6,000 pages. And I took it to it. I didn't care. This was going to be the book that brought religion down. I mean, I put everything, I put a kitchen sink in that thing. Put an old rusty shoe or something. I put everything and then talk to them and going, Damien, this is at least 6 books. You can't see, this is too big. This is like an anthology or something. This is like, no. And so I was like, oh, I'm really disappointed. So then I had to cut it up into several books. And also, when I started this whole endeavor, I actually believed in spirituality, I thought. Because I've changed, I've learned stuff. I'm the evidence that I'm willing to learn. People are like, oh, you seem pretty closed-minded. I'm like, no, I'm extremely open-minded. I just now have facts, so I'm not open-minded about that unless you're going to show me how that fact is an error. But other than that, yeah, but everything else, I'm open. I'm totally open. I want to know as much as I can. I want to believe as many true things as possible. I want to research, and so to me, that was what it was about. And that's what but so the problem is to convince myself, and I'm not easily convinced. I had to do lots and lots and lots and lots of research. But then when I did, I realized I can't put that in a book because once again, it's too big. And then it's too complicated, there's too many ideas. So now, I have it written and I'm going to rewrite it because I'm going to basically cannibalize it down to like maybe 25% of what I have. Which is real complicated too because I got to figure out what's to put in, what not. And then I'm going to try to take as much of the archaeology out. I want to make it, right now it's too college. I want to make it way more like high school or maybe high school dropout. Or at least what I'm trying to do is, even the philosophy, I can understand doctorate level philosophy, but my goal is to make philosophy to the regular person, so you don't really have to know anything. I want to, that's what my goal is as an activist. I want to help people. I did all this because when I came, there was nothing. And there was, everyone asked questions like, well, why is religion? Well, I think it might have been from liking, or I think maybe, and I'm like, what? I didn't want to accept a new myth.
Right.
I wanted to understand what was really true. But
So, what do you think of this notion, and this is coming from a book I read, Sapiens, by an Israeli historian slash archaeologist, but anyway, the idea that humans in groups cannot cooperate with each other in groups larger than about 150 without some myth or
yeah, I think that's a fallacy. I'd
You
like
think
to see
that's a
evidence
fallacy?
on that. I understand. So I started my degree in psychology. That sounds like an anthropologist talking outside of his field without, I mean, unless he's got evidence that proves that. Because early humans were warlike, but not that much with themselves. They were fighting, I would say, the Neanderthal. One thing you look at, so Neanderthals, so you look at the DNA of Neanderthals. Why is almost all the DNA the female Neanderthal? Wonder. Maybe it's because Neanderthals like small groups, like 15 to 30, maybe even 8.
Family group.
Family. Very, very small. Where you have Homo sapien humans that, we like bigger groups. 50, 100, 300. So, and we didn't, did we have myth? I think we had ideas, but I don't think that's a requirement. I mean, it doesn't, it's not that, just think of that, which is the right myth. I mean, if you're saying there has to be a myth, you're basically saying there has to be a guidance, is what you're really saying. And I'm not saying that guidance doesn't work, but then one guy did the thing where I think it's called Princess Angela or something, where he puts this empty chair in a room of kids, and he's trying to see it with magical beliefs. And he's like, Princess Angela's right there, and she can see everything you're doing. So I'm going to leave the room right now. Is that when you're kind of talking about something like that? But that doesn't.
I actually forget what his. I didn't know before I came here where you were going to go with this. So I don't remember what evidence he had for it.
Yeah, I find that to be. That doesn't sound right to me. That it's mandatory that if there's 100 people that we had to have. Nah, that sounds like his opinion.
Well, it was the case that if there's so many people that they can't all know each other, and at about 50 people, you need language because you have to be able to communicate with each other through gossip as to who you can trust. You know, and then when you get up to like 150 people.
Yeah, but hold on one second. So, at least 50% of communication is not words. It's nonverbal clues.
Okay, well, whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, so I'm going to comment that I don't know about specifically about the study. I'm just saying it doesn't sound right. He's making a claim that sounds pretty, that there's every certain amount of group of people it's mandatory to have myth. Yeah, I don't. Now, if you're saying it's mandatory to have rules or agreement, I do think there was clans. And I do think that clans, but if you're saying that people stay together, that would be that you have to have that, no.
Well, okay, but understand that what he considers to be myth. So in the modern era, one of our myths is money. Because money doesn't...
Yeah, but this thing, 50,000 years ago, did they know what a myth was? In a sense, did they tell myths? I mean, humans have been speaking for a long time, but the question is, when you say myth, to me, I would say, no, those people believe they were saying, like people now, just the truth. I would think that they think that, unless they're talking about the metaphors, which even some shamans and totemists, they'll tell you it's a metaphor. Yeah, it's not like God, it's kind of like this,
Well, I'm sorry that I tripped everybody up by using that word. It's not, if I didn't...
Well, no,
there's connotations that sometimes, get in the way. I meant a common belief or a North Star, you know.
Well, a common belief would be different than a myth. A common belief can be true. In fact, I'm not an atheist that has a problem with belief. My question is it justified? Tell me you have a belief, okay. That means absolutely zero to me. All you're saying is you accept some kind of an idea. Okay. Now, is it true? Is it justified? Can you demonstrate it? Can you show it? Can you explain it with logic in the way that's not contradictory? Because if you can't, to me, if you can't go against the two things in philosophy, like the correspondence theory of truth, and what you talk about has to relate to what you're talking about. So if you say there's a God something, there has to be God something properties in reality. If I can't find them, if you can't show them, then I have to assume that they're not properties in reality.
Okay, well, none of what you're saying is relevant to the idea that you have some common idea among these people that holds them together. So we all believe in this, therefore we can all march under this flag, therefore, you know, these 1,000 people can all march in the same direction.
Like I said, I would accept that without contest. Just your word of it had to be a myth. That means something that is inherently not true.
Okay, I should
not a problem. I was just saying.
I should never have used that word, sorry.
No.
I should never.
Not that big a deal. I'm just saying, clarify, because that word means something to me different.
Yeah.
A common symbol?
Yeah, the common symbol, that's fine.
But that is, sort of an interesting idea, right? That these larger groups need to have a shared idea. And it kind of doesn't matter whether the shared idea is true or not, right?
No, right.
Wait, no, I'm not, I was just saying that you said it had to be a myth, and I just see all myths as false.
Okay, yeah.
A myth is not a true thing. So, I mean, that's the word. It's fine to use. I'm just saying that, if you say a shared idea, okay, that's fine. That's totally different.
Myth has a slightly nebulous.
Yeah, that's
a negative
connotation. No problem. I mean, how we
understand
understand things by asking questions and talking it out. So I appreciate you saying it. It adds clarification. Any other questions?
One of the things I noticed that in some of the conversations you had that you've posted on Facebook, one of the arguments is to try to get a person to talk to you about what they mean by the term God. And I do not mean by that what they do. Like, for instance, God is the creator, God is this. It's what they actually mean by the interpretation of the word God.
Oh yeah, I'm massive about that, because of being an agnostic with an I, when you say the word G-O-D, I hear F-O-D, G-A-K, L-M-T, whatever. You just said a bunch of nonsense. And I don't call it nonsense. I say, explain that to me. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by God? Well, God is omnipotent. Okay, that would be a characteristic of a thing. I want to know what the thing is. Tell me the thing that you say you know, not what it can do. Well, it created the universe. Okay, that would be a behavior of a thing. I'm asking you for a thing. Not what you call it, what it is. If I ask you what a chair is, are you going to tell me, well, I have a wife? Great. Is that through the chair? So to me, most of the time, you're offered things when they say God is. Nothing after God is actually referring to the thingness of a thing. Not one. Unless they're all the old religions where they had all these extremely human anthropomorphic characteristics. Most of the ones, how they assume it now, it's like the Spirit of God. I mean, to me, even just think, like Hinduism. Hinduism has a Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita says that all gods are a false representation or a lower representation of Krishna, the one true God.
He's not talking about anything that exists outside of human minds. He's about means, essentially.
So all Krishna is about just internal. There's no such thing as Krishna outside of the mind.
Right. So
every Hindu believes that.
We're not even going there. We're just trying to understand how humans work.
Well, who do we going there?
With their human brains, regardless of what.
But are you talking about what Hinduism believes, or are you talking about what you believe?
No, humans collectively, how they work as a species with their DNA. You know?
Okay.
So that's DNA. What you're saying what God is, then it's just a representation.
How our brains work to understand our universe, that's totally within ourselves and not outside ourselves. I don't care whether or not it's true or not. I'm curious about how powerful these stories we tell ourselves are and how it affects our real lives.
Well, if you said it wasn't real, then you already removed yourself from
But it has
theistic belief.
power in the minds of humans.
Well,
We tell-
all ideas, love has power, fear has power, hate has power, joy has
Yes.
power,
So let's
sex
talk
has
about
power. I
these
mean,
things. So that's what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to talk about these ideas.
who?
That
We is
humans-
who? You and who other people?
All right.
Well, I know, I'm asking you to clarify. You're using generalized global terms. You know what people like to do to talk about gods? Generalize, globalize. You know why? Because if you talk details and you talk facts, very shortly you will find out that guess what? When you navigate that, it's not true. It doesn't have justification to show it's true. It doesn't have warrant to preclude that it must be true.
And things that
It is simply offered as an idea, as a projection, no more valid or worthwhile than any other random idea
Yes.
that a bum talks, that anyone else talks.
And all these things that you're saying have power in the minds of humans
Uh-huh.
and affect our lives in real world ways
Yeah.
because of these ideas that are not true affect us in true ways.
Oh, that's not something I would disagree with. Of course, I would not spend this much time learning about religion that I can't stand. I don't like any of it. Zero. I don't like atheist church. I like nothing. But I want to understand. And I didn't try to understand in a biased way either. I didn't try to go, I'm an atheist, so all of it must be bad, all of it must be wrong. In fact, I started going, wow, those animistic people seem kind of cool in some ways. I wish I was a little more nature, affirming. Because if seeing ourselves as so much better than everything allows us to kill with impunity.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I'm just,
Well, you did. You said powerful ideas.
Yeah.
You can't limit them to the powerful ideas, but you said it wasn't just about God, it was about powerful ideas, about my ideas. So don't tell me it's not about my ideas when you just told me it was. I'm just asking, right? You said it's about your ideas, Damien, and all ideas. Well, then I took your word on it. You can't then hold me accountable.
I'm not talking about anything that exists outside of human minds. I'm not talking
But
about
everything. That would be.
And so whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. It's
Oh, no, it doesn't matter.
how it affects us is how it matters.
Oh, it affects us matters if it's true,
So
too.
lies-
Because, my parents believed that God was true. I didn't need education. That affected me in a real world way. My
Lies-
parents believed that medical was unnecessary because prayer worked. I have a gash in my head. My parents put a butterfly bandage and prayed. I should have gone to the freaking hospital. Blood was out. I was almost in concussion. It does matter what these people believe.
Ideas that are not true affect us in real,
Yes.
in real ways.
Well, ideas affect us, period. The untrue ones have the potential to have also other things besides. Because, see, a true idea can be true. Like, say, anthrax or AIDS is true. Using it to put in my body, whether it's true or not, it'll still be harmful. So harm is not the same as true. You can be true and still be harmful. You can be false and be harmful.
Yes.
You can be false and have a benefit.
And
But
it
to me,
affects
it's
us-
when we over-assume the benefit
And
to a false
it
thing.
affects
that's
our
real wrong.
behaviors and our actions, and therefore, it is true in a meme way, basically, because
Well, I don't agree with the meme mentality, so I hear that you agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't see ideas as memes. I think that that is someone's opinion, but I don't see that as a way that we actually psychologically understand the world. To me, we understand the world phenomenology. In other words, we experience it. We think that we are getting the direct world, but we're getting a filtered view. Just like a lot of people say, oh, it's an optical illusion, as if somehow your eyes are always the result of why you see it wrong.
Right.
A lot of times, what you
Yes.
see wrong is in the mind.
yes,
It's a mental illusion, not an optical
but
one.
it's that filtered rule. It is that filtered perception that rules our actions and choices, and that's what affects us.
Right, and that's why
Not
we need to have as
actual
many
reality,
true ones as
not
possible.
actual truth. It's how it's our.
Well, we
living,
need effective
how you
things.
see
Non-truth
it,
is generally not very
that
effective.
affects us in real ways.
I can't understand the difference. Well, you seem to be talking past each other, I think. I really do. Because it seems like you're both saying the same thing, but you're arriving at some conclusion that you haven't expressed yet. Maybe you could clarify exactly what you were saying?
I'm out of hit points, honestly, and kind of wanted to shut down.
David,
Okay.
okay, I guess we have one.
Go ahead, good question.
Where would you put humanism in this continuum?
Well, humanism started from Christianity, and I can't remember his name, but he basically started to wear flowers in his head. I know there's pictures of him. And he just started to behave in a way that was not correct for his time and culture. He was, like, in a sense, kind of like a Renaissance man. But he basically felt that we needed to work on the humans now. So it wasn't like even humanism, in a sense, is not in the sense that there's no God. It says good without God. It's not saying there is no God, thus I'm still good. It's basically saying God's not necessary, whether or not you're a theist, is the statement. Whether or not you're a Christian, you still need to help people now. There's still a need now, in a sense that it doesn't, going just after we pray, doesn't seem to be the effective way to do things in the real world, so let's just help. Go ahead.
To me, religion is just a really well-organized psychology.
It's a group, like I said, offered ideas. It's our, in a sense, animism is psychology in the sense that before 7 years old, in a sense, most people that are born are animists, or think animistically. That when you look at the world, you look for agency. You believe, if you were told there's agency, you believe it. I mean, it's right in your mindset. That's why I think that, to me, it's child abuse before 7 to even offer children really religious ideas, because they cannot differentiate reality from fantasy in the way that later they can when they get more higher level thinking as they develop. To me, it's unfair. They don't even have a chance to think, and you're already forcing them into a belief, to me. Any other questions? Is there a question?
No, I was just going to kind of wind us up, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, I guess I'll end it, and thank you for giving me